The 1920s roared with a sound unlike any heard before. It was the sound of jazz spilling from dance halls, the hum of new assembly lines, and the triumphant roar of engines in brand new automobiles crowding city streets. This was a decade of unprecedented change, an era of flappers, radios, and seemingly endless optimism. In cities across America, factories churned out a dazzling array of consumer goods, from refrigerators to vacuum cleaners, promising a new, modern way of life for all. The fever of this new prosperity infected everyone. A relentless bull market lured millions into the world of stock speculation, where it seemed that fortune was just a trade away. From Wall Street brokers to shoeshine boys, Americans poured their savings into stocks, watching the ticker tape scroll with ever-rising numbers. Newspaper headlines celebrated the boom, convincing a nation that the party would never end. But it was a prosperity built on a fragile illusion, a grand spectacle that masked deep and dangerous instabilities. Beneath the shimmering surface of the Roaring Twenties, critical cracks were beginning to form in the nation's economic foundation. The incredible wealth generated during the decade was not shared equally. While a select few hosted extravagant parties in sprawling mansions, a vast population of rural farmers and urban factory workers struggled just to get by. Agriculture, once the backbone of the American economy, was in a state of quiet crisis. Years of overproduction led to plummeting crop prices, leaving farmers with overflowing silos and crippling debt. In the cities, industries were producing more goods than consumers could actually afford to buy. Warehouses began to fill with unsold products, a silent testament to a growing imbalance. This problem was papered over by the advent of consumer credit. Enticing buy now, pay later plans encouraged families to take on debt to acquire the symbols of prosperity, creating a precarious cycle of borrowing that could not be sustained. Compounding these issues was a banking system that was dangerously weak and unregulated. A sprawling network of thousands of small independent banks operating with little oversight and insufficient reserves, vulnerable to any major economic shock. The music stopped on October 29, 1929, a day that would be forever known as Black Tuesday. The speculative bubble, inflated by years of easy credit and irrational exuberance, finally burst. Panic gripped Wall Street. Crowds of terrified investors gathered outside the New York Stock Exchange, their faces etched with disbelief and dread as the news spread. Inside, a frantic wave of selling began, overwhelming the market. The ticker tapes, once symbols of fortune, now reported a catastrophic collapse. Stock prices plummeted in a free fall, wiping out fortunes in a matter of hours. The shockwave from the crash immediately slammed into the fragile banking system. Fearing the worst, people rushed to their local banks in a desperate attempt to withdraw their life savings. Long, anxious lines formed on street corners across the country. But the banks, having invested their depositors' money in the now worthless stock market, did not have the cash. One by one, their doors were shuttered for good, locking away the savings of millions and sealing the fate of countless American families. The collapse of the American financial system sent ripples across the globe, dragging the world into the Great Depression. In a misguided attempt to protect American industries, the government passed the Smoot-Hawley tariff, which raised taxes on imported goods to record levels. In response, other nations retaliated with their own tariffs, causing international trade to grind to a halt and deepening the worldwide economic crisis. Back home, the consequences were devastating. As businesses closed and factories fell silent, unemployment soared to staggering heights. Millions of jobless Americans found themselves without an income and without a safety net. Families who lost their homes built makeshift shelters in squalid shantytowns, derisively named Hoovervilles after the president they blamed for their plight. The vibrant energy of the 1920s was replaced by a grim struggle for survival. The end of an era had arrived, marking the beginning of a decade of despair.